Okay, something else that's not talked about very often in the literature is the use of spears, handheld spears by Native Americans. Now, do I have any information on that? No, actually, I don't have much. I've been looking around for information, and the stuff that I can find relates mainly to trade points and spears, or trade points mounted to spears during the wars with the Plains Indians. There's a lot of references there, but those are metal. Those are either made from strips of metal or modified knives, or sometimes even scissors were cut and shaped, taken apart and shaped and used for spear points, handheld spear points, especially for horseback fighting during those wars, during the Plains Indians wars. But do I think that handheld spears were common in other time periods, pre-contact, and what types of points were used for those? And yes, I do think they were very common, and they're not talked about very often because we don't have any artifacts as far as long spears themselves that I can think of. But we do have photographs of many Native Americans back in the day that they were holding spears. Okay, and I think that kind of weapon is personally more effective in combat than an arrow. So I think they were used more often than arrows in combat, which means more points were generated, I think, for spears than for arrows. I do have to be careful about saying stuff like that because, one spear can be used over and over again, but when you make arrows, you have like 20, 30, 40, sometimes up to 60 arrows each with points. So I guess there would be more arrow points themselves compared to spear points, but the spear point would get a lot more action. Okay, it would be used over and over again. Whereas these little arrow points, maybe 1 or 2 shots each. That's what I meant, okay. So actual spears were very common, I think, in warfare. Now there's some Aztec and Central American illustrations made by Aztecs and also Inca that show spears or warriors holding spears. There's also warriors holding atlatl darts, warriors holding arrows, warriors holding various other weapons. But yes, spears did exist and are shown in a lot of pictographs. Now, do I think they were used in hunting? Yes, as a defensive measure, especially if you're going after predators, okay? And the predators are going to fight back. You're going to need a spear. You're going to need some archers. You're going to need a spear. You're going to need guys with slings and, bolas, where you can throw a bola at the legs of the animal to entangle it. Anything you can, but spears can hold the animal at bay extremely well. Okay, so I think that was always within a hunting party or a war party, you would have at least a few guys with spears. Now, do I think stone was used for those spears? Yes, I do, although I think stone was mainly used for the knives. Yes, stone can be used for a spear, but I think it would have to be a hefty, simple point, and perhaps without a stem or a very sturdy stem for the spear. And now that's kind of controversial. I don't know exactly if that's true or not. So I'm assuming that a spear point would not really have a stem because it would snap at that point easily. It would just be a triangle or something with a very large, I shouldn't say large, but a wide stem. Maybe a slight constriction, near the base for the lashing and stuff, but it would have to be simple and not have any weak spots on it to use it continuously. Otherwise, you would have to make your, spear point out of bone or antler or some other durable material. Wood, I guess, would be the easiest thing. Just a sharpened long stick would work too. Is there any advantage for overusing just a sharpened, hardened point? Sometimes you can heat treat and harden the point. Usually not, I don't think. Is there an advantage of using stone over just a sharpened wooden point? And I don't think in the heat of battle you would see much difference, okay? In fact, if it was me personally, I would like to use a sharpened, just a wooden sharpened spear instead of having to worry about my spear point breaking in combat. I would want to use a spear with a sharpened wooden point. I think that'd be a lot more reliable. And I could make a lot of them. I could bring, I could have 2 spears. I suppose you can't really use 2 spears in combat, but you know what I mean. You'd bring extra weapons with you. Maybe you'd have them back into camp or something. In any case, I would personally use a wooden tipped spear. I think that was the most common, just like arrows. The most common arrow point is a wood tipped arrow. And then stone only for only if I had a strong stone point would I use it. I guess that's what I was trying to say. So yeah, I do think spears were very common. Every war party must have had at least 1 or 2 guys. Let's say the war party has 20 guys. I would say at least 2 of them had spears, minimum. And the rest had other weapons. But yeah, there are some illustrations where almost everyone in the war party had a club of some sort or a long pole arm with a, like in the East Coast, I saw some illustrations where it looked like they were holding large canoe paddles, okay, with points on the end. They would flare out and you have a little point. And it looked like a canoe paddle, 6 foot long. So I think there was that's a combination of spear and club and paddle. So I think they did use those for paddling their canoes as well. So a multi-use weapon. So yeah, you can also push a reed boat or something with your spear, not the pointy end down in the water, but the pointy end up, and the base of the spear used to guide your boat along in the water. Or if you wanted to cross a river or something, you could use your spear to, paddle your raft or whatever you're floating on. So it can be, it's a very useful thing to have. So yeah, I'll try to do some more research on that. Again, like I said, I haven't found much, but I do believe a lot of these simple, sturdy points were used as spear points. The stone ones I'm talking about now. The stone ones were used. And Clovis, yes. I think they were used as spear points as well, handheld spear points as well. And also as projectile points, of course. So yeah. Okay.